Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Gonzalez once again with this week's SEL Spotlight. Today we're talking about avoiding stereotypes. I hope that by the end of this short video today you will know what stereotyping is, how it affects people, and how we can avoid stereotyping others. So I have a question for you. Are erasers black or green? What do you think? Think about that for a moment and just blurt out your answer. Are erasers black or green? Well, what if I told you that not all erasers are used to clean chalkboards or whiteboards? But you knew that, right? Some are used to clean pencil markings off paper, and erasers are made of a whole bunch of different materials and come in many different colors. So what just happened there? Your response depended on what kind of eraser you thought I was talking about, and I influenced your perception by showing you a chalkboard and a whiteboard. So this ties in perfectly with what we're looking at today, which is looking at people's perceptions and how those are formed. So the next thing I want you to do is I want you to describe an apple for me, and just yell out your description, or if someone is there next to you, tell them about all the specific characteristics of an apple and try to be as exact as possible. And if you need to, just go ahead and pause the video. Describe an apple to me. Are you sure that you want to stick with the description that you just gave? I want you to check out this apple here. Does it fit the description you gave just moments ago, or does something need to be changed or added from your original description that you gave for an apple? There are obviously different kinds of apples, different colors, shapes, sizes, number of specks on them, where they're grown. So it's really difficult to come up with one description that will cover all the individual characteristics of every single apple. Hopefully, as you see more examples and information about apples, you realize that there are many differences among individual members of the same group. So the group being apples, many different individual members. And it makes it really hard to come up with one description or definition that kind of encompasses all of them. And if we were to come up with a description that would include all apples, our list would be very general and broad, not too specific, so that it could include all apples. So maybe round and a stem. It grows on a tree, right? Very, very broad. And that general description or definition is actually an example of a stereotype, especially when we're talking about characteristics of like groups of people, different genders, and that kind of thing. So sometimes we do read or hear about stereotypes about other groups of people, especially people that are different from us. And it's important to note, however, that describing a group or like lumping them all together, like with the example of the apples, it opens the door to excluding individual members of that same group. So what are some stereotypes, for example, that you've heard of men? What are stereotypes that you've heard of women? I can tell you a really quick one to go to. Boys are better at math than girls, and girls are better at speaking than men. And those are stereotypes, clearly, because there are a lot of individual women that are very good at math, that are engineers, that are rocket scientists, you know, and there's a lot of men out there that are excellent public speakers. And so these clearly are stereotypes, right, that we hear about in society, and they don't necessarily hold up to be true. So I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, this might be a sensitive topic for some of you, but I want you to ask yourself, have you ever been treated a certain way because of a stereotype? How did you feel? Now I want you to ask yourself and be honest, have you ever treated someone else a certain way because of a stereotype that you believe? Many times stereotypes are inaccurate, right? Think about that time that maybe you've been treated differently being stereotyped and how it made you feel. More than likely, you did not feel very good about it. because, as I mentioned, stereotypes are inaccurate and they hurt people by being generalized. Stereotypes and labels can cause others to be treated differently, and for some people, it can be downright dangerous. Imagine or think about all those situations where people bought into those stereotypes, believed them, felt like their life was in danger, and reacted based on those emotions. So those labels that we put on people cause problems because they can make us overlook the differences among people. And you see on this cartoon here, I know it's maybe like a little bit sarcastic, but these are realities for some people. The guy here, how can a girl run a business? So he's thinking like, girls can't run a business, right? And then here, I'm young, so I must be naive. Oh, so stereotyped. There are a lot of young people out there that are very, very smart and very capable of running successful businesses. So I caution you to really avoid falling into the trap of making judgments about people or stereotyping them without having the complete picture. So working to break the stereotypes. And here are some things that you can keep in mind, something to remember to avoid falling into the traps of stereotyping. Stereotypes cause people to make judgments about other people without finding out who the other person really is. And believing those stereotypes fools people into thinking that they know what someone else is like just because the person looks a certain way, does a certain thing, or hangs out with certain people. And then lastly, stereotypes can also stop people from forming an accurate opinion as they don't take time to learn the facts. So I think one of the things that really pops out at me from these three things is making sure that you have all the information before jumping to a conclusion about somebody and thinking, oh, this person is a certain way because they're going to behave a certain way because they are, part of this group. So how can you challenge the stereotypes that we hear about others? Pause for a moment, and I want you to come up with at least 2 ways that you can avoid stereotyping others. I'm curious to know what your 2 ways are, so I ask you to go ahead and pause this video to type in your response in the comments below for other scholars to see. So share your ideas. And you may have some of these ways to avoid stereotypes in your list of 2 that I asked you to share, but I wanted to share some other examples in case they weren't on your list of 2 of how you can avoid stereotyping people. And obviously this list can, hopefully our list below in our comments grows and grows, but this is just to get you started or maybe add to what you already have. So don't make a judgment about a person or a situation until you have all the facts, reminding yourself to do that. Focus on individuals and their strengths and interests. Make an effort to get to know other people and let them get to know you. And then lastly, remember that if you think you know someone because he or she fits into a general category or description, then you may be stereotyping that person. Everyone is unique. Even if he or she has a lot in common with the larger group, they are still an individual. So for many people that have found themselves, sorry about that, many people that have found themselves treated differently based on others stereotyping you, I invite you to think of ways that you can challenge these assumptions. And here are some suggestions that can get you started, but if you want to share some additional ones down in the comments, you are more than welcome to do so. But the 3 I want to share with you is focus on your strengths and interests and make them stand out so that they are what people notice about you. Volunteer information about yourself. Volunteer to do things or talk with people that you don't know very well. A lot of the times, we also have maybe some preconceived notions that other people are not going to be welcoming of us, right? But really breaking those ideas that we might be forming in our minds and getting out of our comfort zone. So we are coming to an end here with our SEL Spotlight this week. And I do want to leave you with some final points. I hope that you walk away with a lot of valuable information today. I just want to recap that stereotypes often give people the false perception of one another. You never want to rely on stereotypes to make judgments about people or situations. Avoid stereotyping others. Take the time to find out the facts. Avoid being stereotyped by focusing attention on yourself as an individual. And live by the golden rule, right? You wouldn't want others to make assumptions or stereotyping you. So, why engage in the activity of stereotyping others? Don't do to others what you wouldn't want others to do to you. So the golden rule there. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed our conversation today. This is Mrs. Gonzalez for the Counseling Services Department at CCS, and I will see you next week.